Good question. Hey, I am so excited for you guys to meet our guest today, James. He is such an inspiration. He has a background in construction and really just completely changed courses, and he is helping so many people become successful in their own right. And of course, rising through, we love to learn about the path to that success. We really believe, I believe, that struggle is something that is required in success. A lot of times in life, we're trying to avoid struggle at all costs. But what I've learned is that those struggles are actually required for success. So James Allen is here today. I'm very excited for you guys to hear from him. So far, speaking with him, I already know he's going to provide great value. So thank you so much for James for coming with us today.
Heck yeah, I'm pumped to be here, Colleen. Yeah, really just honored to share the story and share my struggles. It's always, I agree with you 100%. Like that's what, makes us as entrepreneurs. Like if you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you are signing up for a road of challenges ahead of you, but it's good because that's how we get better and better. And, we
Yes.
grow ourselves ultimately.
It's so true. I think anything in life, if you have children, you're trying to always shelter them from pain, but it's in those painful moments that we grow. And if we never have any challenge, then we don't ever grow. And that also is a terrible way to live, right? So life is always going to have challenge and always going to have struggle. But what is key, I think, is deciding how you react to that, right? You can let that struggle bring you down, but then so many people like yourself use that struggle to help them propel themselves to something greater. And then hopefully share that story with other people. Because when I was struggling in business, I've been a business owner since 2004, full time. We've had so many ups and downs. And when I started, there was no podcast. There was no really internet. That's how long ago 2004 was. And so we were very isolated in our business journey, and you have questions and you have struggles and you think you're the only one that's going through it. And there's so much shame around that struggle. But what I found by listening to podcasts and connecting to business people is that those moments are the catalyst often to the true purpose, the true greatness in their success. So, James, I understand you came from construction. What kind of construction were you doing? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I basically, when I was in high school, I graduated and I had two options. I was either go into construction work, which is what my dad did. And that's where he found success. It was actually a prestigious, more of construction. We were the highest paying union in the world. And I think it still is to date. So yeah, my dad was like, this was like being a doctor, like to him, it was this whole thing. But my mom wanted me to go to college. And I was like, well, if I go into construction, I can start making money right away. And I can get college credits too by going through like the schooling that they had me do, which was a requirement. So it just seemed like a better option. I went into construction. I learned a ton, got to meet some really awesome people, but I just didn't fit in because I was this big personal development guy. I had a really challenging childhood. My parents were very chaotic, and it was this whole different story, I would say. But yeah, that led me to getting into personal development at 17. I read the book, The Four Agreements. So I was just like kind of this oddball in construction where like other people weren't really into personal development like I was. And I really just like got fed up with the work. And that's where I found out about coaching. And I was like, well, I'm listening to all these people like Tony Robbins and Don Miguel Ruiz and all these different people and seeing them like create content and speak on stages and coach people. And I never thought that it could be me that could do that. So I decided that, eventually I'm going to leave construction, and I started out with life coaching, and it just wasn't quite the fit for me. I was working with people. I just felt more like a therapist, kind of holding space for people. So I tried to adjust my approach, and I wanted to be a specialist in something. That's kind of what led me into productivity coaching. And then from there, I learned about online courses, making passive income with online courses so you can teach people things and then be able to make money. And I remember like my first online sale, it was like $200. And I was like, it happened overnight when I was sleeping. And I'm like, holy crap, I made freaking $200. That wasn't even like doing anything extra. It takes work to set it up. But, talking about like struggles in general, like it took me 6 online courses. And there's a lot of work that goes into creating an online course, but 6 online courses until I made one that was able to sell passively. So it was just so many failures again and again, but I was like, I know I can do this. I see people doing it. I'm learning from people who are doing it. Their students are doing it. And I met some of the students and whatnot. And I'm like, it's possible for me. I can do it. So I just kept falling on my face until I learned how to walk.
Okay. I want to pick that apart a little bit. I mean, first of all, we'll get back to that passive income thing because I think that's really important. Actually, a lot of people, what's the difference between a business owner and entrepreneur versus self-employed? I don't think we talk about that enough in the business world, but a 17-year-old teenage boy is reading 4 agreements. That is not typical. Like, how did that even happen?
Yeah, so I don't really talk about like my childhood a whole lot. I used to when I was doing life coaching because that was kind of
Yeah.
like my origin story. But since then, I've grown. I've evolved a lot as like a business owner, so it's not always relevant. But right now, I feel like it is. So when I was 5 to 8 years old, that time frame, I had like the most chaotic period of my life ever, I would say, because my parents were really involved with like alcohol and drug abuse. And they hung out with like outlaw biking gangs and all that crazy stuff. And it was like, if you think, this is a terrible example, but if you think about like it's a great example, but a terrible example. If you think about Wild Hogs, that movie, if you've ever seen it, like the bad guys, that was kind of
Yeah.
like the people that they hung out with. But it was just like, you never knew what was going to happen. And my parents like almost killed each other multiple times. My dad almost like beat my mom to death. And granted, like they're all still alive. But and we all get along and we can like have dinners and stuff together, but they were just like, they were doing drugs, and it was just a lot of chaos. And since then they've grown a lot, but it's just weird to grow up in that. And yeah, 5 to 8 years old, that was like my real developmental stages of my life and my brain. So my mom kept telling me, because I was living with her years later, like, you should read this book, The Four Agreements, The Four Agreements. And I'm like, no, it's dumb. I don't really care about that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do what you tell me, Mom. And then one day I came home from school and the book was just on my bed. So I'm like, I'll take a look at it. And I open up, when you open up the first flap, it shows like a brief description of the Four Agreements. And it's like, if you don't know, it's be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions and always do your best. And I read those, and the one that really caught my eye was don't take anything personally, because I struggled a lot with insecurity of just myself, and whatnot. Even though I'm a really capable human being, I just had like these mental blocks primarily from my childhood. And I just started reading the book, and I just kept reading, and I literally read the book over and over again. It was like the one, I didn't even like reading, but it was the one book that I really got submerged into, and it really expanded me to just personal development, working on myself. And I would try and help friends with it. I'm like, you should read this book, like Four Agreements. I was like doing coaching before I even knew like what coaching was, and yeah, it was really the catalyst for
17-year-old
everything.
teenager running around trying to get his friends to read
Personal development book. No
self-development
wonder they
book
didn't
is
listen to
not
me.
typical. I mean, I had a really hard childhood and I did not read the Four Agreements, but I think what a blessing in a way that your mom had been in recovery and then
Mhm.
had that tool to offer you,
Yeah.
right? And in a way, if she hadn't had that struggle, which also was your struggle, but that wouldn't have never happened. That catalyst wouldn't have occurred. And
Mhm.
would you have ended up doing all of the other things subsequent to that? I think that is really cool how um, the universe provided you that opportunity to get exactly what you needed, and it's turned into a whole entire path forward for you. And by that, you've helped so many other people. So I think that's a really cool moment where that struggle becomes something that there isn't always a big moment where we realize, oh, that was the piece that fit together.
Mm.
But that little change, you actually picking up the book and reading it, is such a blessing for so many other people. And so you mentioned like building 4 courses, that the 4 courses failed. And then
It
you
was six,
continued
six
on
courses,
6 courses.
6 courses.
So like, how long does it take to build a course?
It depends. Okay. So I thought that I had to build this whole grandiose thing right away. Now I can help people get a whole entire system with a course built up in 4 months we can take, which still can seem like a lot of time, but you have to consider that a lot of the real like success in a course is from the preparation ahead of time. So I would just like build courses and I was like, oh, I got the cool downloads and the format and everything looks really cool and the videos and all this, but I never did any formal research ahead of time. Of like, what do people actually care about? It was just such a simple question. Actually, listening to people and running surveys and whatnot. And it was a productivity course that actually took off, and I found a problem that people were facing, and that's what allowed it to actually sell. So a lot of it before that was just like taking forever. But now what I teach people and what I recommend to people, especially if you're new into courses, is to start with mini courses, because a mini course can be like 5 lessons, really short, doesn't need to take a long time. It can be low budget too, and still be very valuable. A great format. Like you can use your phone to film a course, I think that creating a slide deck, like a slide presentation in Google Slides, Keynote, or PowerPoint is really cool. And then using like a tool like Loom, or I like Camtasia. That's what I use for all my content creation. I can screen share and all that. But just being able to record the screen and have like a microphone and whatnot and explain the slides and go into a bit more detail. If you really want to just like bare bones get a course up, as long as you have like a really good like product idea, really, like you've done the research, you figure out what are people struggling with, what do they want to achieve, and what's getting in the way of getting from point A to point B. That's half the battle. Because once you found the common challenge and the common outcome people want, then the course content is just like, okay, if I'm going to make a mini course just to get this thing up, a minimum viable product, I'm going to just pick up like, what are 5 to 7 steps that someone can take that I know is the common problem majority of people are facing, and the majority of people want this outcome. What are 5 to 7 steps I can teach someone or show them to get from point A to point B? Because people with courses, I've heard people say that like, oh, courses don't sell, courses don't work. It's like, they totally work. It's just like, it's like a book. Books sell all the time. Why is no one hating on books? A course is just like a souped up book, basically, because you have the same content in a book as you do in a course, but the format alone makes it more valuable because it's a video course from the creator. They can run back, they can listen to it, they can have PDF worksheets and guides and things like that inside of it. So it makes it a much more valuable product. But yeah, you have to have a good transformation for someone. And then what's cool is if you made like 5 lessons or 5 steps really, which are your video ideas. So 5 videos that get them from point A to point B, you get some people in the door, make it like 40 or $50 to like $100. Or you can even go up higher, depends on like your niche and what you're doing. But usually like $100 course, if you have some traffic coming through, it's really easy for people to pay for. And that level, if it's passive too, can actually add up to a lot. And you're like, wow, I'm actually making some decent money. You present in front of an audience, and then they find out about your course, and you spoke in front of 100 people, and then even half of them sign up. It can actually result into a good amount of income. But yeah, that's kind of my story about getting into courses.
I mean, so many people think, oh my goodness, I think I have to have, like you said, this in-depth, groundbreaking information in the course. I think they forget that you're really helping someone that's 3 steps behind you. And what you're teaching is something that seems normal to you because you know it. But for a lot of other people, they really haven't had someone walk them through that, right? There's a lot of things that I've learned in business over the last 20 years that I'm like, oh yeah, da 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 da. But there was a time when I had no idea how those things worked. I had no idea how to figure out how those things worked, much less actually execute them in my business. So to me, they're really simple and inherent knowledge, but I forget that 20 years ago when I started, I didn't know any of that. We just knew that we wanted to own a business. We wanted to control our time. We wanted to provide a valuable service, and the rest of it, we had no clue. And, we really struggled a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's a saying of like a rocket fails its way to the moon, where it has like the launch, which takes a lot of effort and energy, and has a rough estimate of where it wants to go. And then on the way, it just goes off course, gets back on, it fails its way to the moon.
Yeah. You're going to go off course a lot in business, right? Just because you have an idea at first, it might not work exactly, but that doesn't mean it's a bad idea either. Right. So that building a course, right? That difference, a lot of people think that they're a business owner, what really they're self-employed, right? Do you have something that is going to make money if you're in Mexico for a month? Do you have something that's going to make money if you're sick? Do you have something that's going to make money if you need a break? And a lot of people think that they're a business owner and they're really self-employed, right? Now, not that being self-employed isn't a bad thing, right? If you're moving from employed to self-employed, if you're on that cash flow quadrant, There's a lot of perks being self-employed. You have a little bit more control of your time. You have a little bit more control over the type of work you're doing, the income that you're charging. You have your tax advantage from being an employee. But to truly be a business owner is you need some sort of system or product that can passively generate you income, whether you're actively providing that course, right?
Mhm.
Providing a course live, providing a video course, the video course is going to enable you to make the income, like you said, while you're sleeping.
Mhm.
Now you're moving into business owner. Now you're leveraging a system that you can use over time so that you can free up your time, right? The purpose of going into business is to create a lifestyle, not to just grind it out. And I think we don't talk about that enough.
Mhm.
We have this hustle culture where if we're not constantly producing something or actively doing the work, then we think that we aren't working. And being a business owner is exactly that, moving our mindset. So we're leveraging a system or a product that we can earn income to free up our time so that we can have more control and more options. So as you were building that, like what made you like, a lot of people would have given up after one or two or three or four times.
Yeah.
What was it? How did that propel yourself to continue on? Most people would not do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the biggest thing for me would be just that I had a mentor that I admired and I looked up to. His name's Graham Cochran. He's still a mentor of mine today. Um, and it just resonated with me because when I totally relate to what you're saying about like the hustle grind culture. It's my enemy. I despise it. I am obsessed with like, let's work fewer hours. I do 5 hour work days, 4 days a week. And I keep it short for a reason because it forces me to focus on tasks that actually move the needle. Just because you give yourself an 8 hour, 10 hour plus workday doesn't mean you're productive for that amount of time.
Yeah, you're going to
Most
use
people
the whole
aren't.
8 hours, but get the
I'm
same amount
freaking
done.
I'm working in the 5 hours, and I'm doing stuff. And then after that, like I use time blocking where I spend time with my girlfriend and it's called family and friends. So I have my work time block. The next one is family and friends. And that helps me just kind of mentally shift to being a different James. It's like family and friends James. I'm the same person kind of all around, my personality, but like my in terms of my focus and my energy. It's kind of hard to shut off my entrepreneurial brain because like ideas come, but that's why I have notes and things that I can revisit. And I make it easy for me in just personal systems and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, like my dad, he taught me at an early age in construction work too, and just the whole culture in construction work, which kind of was a turnoff for me because I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. I would wake up at 3:30 a.m. every day, well, for 6 days a week typically, because like overtime, and then I would go grind it out with physical labor, and then I would get home at about 4 p.m. because I had to commute to San Francisco, which is about an hour south from me, or so, depending on who's driving. But that was just like not the lifestyle that I wanted. So with online courses and like finding Graham and stuff, I just knew that this is something that I can see myself doing. It makes sense to me. And I'm just going to keep working at it until I figure it out. And I think having that really good mentor that resonated with me and that showed me the way and then encouraged me along the way and made me believe that I can do it is what really allowed me to like stay in the game. Cause yeah, I could have just quit and been like, this is stupid. I can find something else. But there was something there because I know what the mission is, like what you were saying. It's like, it's having an actual business. And I knew that instead of like chasing clients, or grinding it out. And even if you're doing well, but you have to keep doing phone calls, like you're bound to the phone calls. Cause if you stop doing phone calls, like what's going to happen? I mean, you could always book another one and whatnot. But yeah, I love doing coaching calls. It's still a big part of my business, and I think it forever will be. But like ideally, it is that piece where like, can you go to Mexico for 2 weeks or wherever you want to go, or a month, and be able to make money while you're traveling, like without doing anything while you're relaxing. Like that is the dream. And online courses and automations are what I saw with that. And then it started working in my life and whatnot. And now I get to help other people do it as well. So I think it all just kind of came full circle, and I just knew what I wanted. I had mentors that supported me with it, and that's why I stayed the path.
Right. I mean, I get it, but also in that moment, three, four on, it's really not easy to propel yourself forward, right? So I think what I heard you say is having a mentor is really important, making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that have gone before, so that when those hard moments come, a lot of people give up because their external world is telling them to give up, right? You've
Mm.
got friends and family that are pulling you down like crabs in a bucket. They're saying, James, why are you spending your time at this? Oh, you're struggling. Oh, did that course make any money yet?
Mm-hmm.
Meh.
Yeah.
And we let it take us down versus strategically surrounding ourselves with people that have been successful, because those successful entrepreneurs are going to say, hey, James, you know, keep going. Hey, have you made any money yet? Okay, well, the next one's going to work. Or what can
Mm-hmm.
you do better? Or maybe I can help you with this. And having that around you is so incredibly important. We always hear that you are an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and it's so true. If you
Mm-hmm.
spend time with people that are bringing you down, that are committed to employee culture in the way of like, there is no better life, you should just give up now and just resign yourself and be grateful that you have a job, that isn't going to help you peel back the onion layer to figure out what is it that you should be doing, what is it that's going to help you create a life that you can really feel proud of, because that hustle culture is so embedded in us that we have to continue working for money, time for money, time for money, and that we should never have the audacity to strive for something more. And surely life is more than just growing up and paying a bunch of bills and then, dying.
Yeah.
But that is what so many people get. So how did you find that mentor? How did you even get to that place?
Honestly, like you said, it was like with the book, the four agreements of how you don't realize that something's going to be big. It's kind of just like great things have small beginnings in a way. Like the book was just on my bed. Um, Very similar to that. I was just on YouTube and I'm looking up videos on how to do things, and it was a recommended video. And this guy popped up, and I was like, cool. Oh, this guy looks cool. And I click on it, and I liked his personality, liked his content. And I followed him for a while, and then I dove into it, and I was like, oh, I already have like these courses I'm kind of working on, but I've never thought about like passive income and kind of like automating them. And yeah, he just became like my hero over that, but it just evolved into a bigger relationship where I started buying his products, started joining his community and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's kind of what the catapult was. It was just a YouTube video. And what I think is actually really cool about that is the fact that, we can be that person for other people, where you can be that YouTube video that shows up for someone that makes them think completely differently and causes them to like get excited about a new path for themselves, or even just give them a booster rocket to stay on the path that's best for them and to support them. And what's beautiful is that that can happen without you actively working. Because every time, like, I'm huge on YouTube. I love YouTube. I prefer it. I'm not really big on like blogs. I use blogging, but I don't dive into like SEO. It's more just to like have a written piece of content that's on a blog for getting discovered, and then I can repurpose that into like social media posts or emails that I send out to my email list and whatnot. It's just more efficient use of my time. But YouTube is the big name of the game. And if you make a YouTube video like you, just like Graham was for me, that's one video that he made, and he could have made it months ago, and it's still out there. It's still in the world. It's still relevant. It's evergreen, which is the term. And inside of every YouTube video, you offer a free gift, which is a lead magnet. And it's just something that by doing good customer research, is going to convert because you know what the problems are. And you get discovered, add value in your content, and you basically have this like carbon copy of yourself, which virtually works like an employee, where it gets discovered by your audience because they're searching for it, they're interested in it, so they click on you and decide to watch your video. They watch it, and then you offer this free thing that gets them onto your email list. And from there, it kickstarts an automation that sends them more emails, and it can basically kickstart the funnel. And that's what leads to passive income ultimately.
Yeah. So if someone's listening today and this is resonating with them, maybe they're on their commute home and they're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe they're a mom that's at home and they're trying to figure out how they're going to balance their career and being the mom that they want to be. There's a million different reasons why someone might want to create a new life and create passive income for themselves.
Mhm.
What would be their first step? Where do they even start?
So well, okay, it kind of depends because if you're like, I have no clue what my business idea even is, I don't even know what I'd pursue. That's a completely different person than someone who's been in the game is like, I know who I want to help. And then I just want to start creating courses and add that kind of to my product suite. Those are kind of two types of people
Yeah.
that I work with. But if you're just starting out like brand new, you have to brainstorm a handful of ideas of like, what I even want my business idea to be. And it comes down to finding the problem in the world or a big problem that you passionately want to solve. So for me, for example, I was in construction work. I was the same way, commuting. I'm like, this sucks. I got to sit in traffic. I don't want to keep waking up at 3:30 a.m. There's got to be a better life for me. So I know the struggle, and I know just working with people that they struggle with it too, but they had that like, you're a lifer mindset. Even though I don't like you just got to push through and grind it out. And they're still there today. I see them actually when I'm driving sometimes. I'm like, oh,
Absolutely. I meet with
you
clients
know,
all the time and they'll say, I have a financial business and I'll say, well, how long until retirement? And they're like, 11 years and 3 months and 52 days. Like, this is just not the way to live.
right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's really the first thing is like, what's a problem that you can passionately solve? If you used to be, the fat kid and then you got into shape, you found out how to solve that problem of like, I'm not overweight anymore. I solved it for myself, and you like to share that with people, and people come up to you and they ask you like, how do you do that? That was kind of me. Like, people were interested. How do you create online courses? How are you doing that? And it was just like, okay, like I can do this. And that's really what I wanted to teach, of like ultimately when I first started, like to help people with careers in some way. And then it kind of like fell into my lap and I started helping people with it. So yeah, you kind of have to just think like, what do I really care about? And then do other people care about that too? Do I find it fun to talk about? Because that winning business idea is at the intersection of the thing that you find passionate or that you are passionate about and that you like love to learn about and study on weekends when like no one's telling you to, you just like to learn about it. And that a lot of people also find valuable. So that intersection is the total sweet spot. And then you just have to ask people like, what's your biggest challenge related to starting an online business? What's your biggest challenge related to getting into shape? And you just kind of like listen to people's challenges and like the big three like benchmarks of customer research, whether it's creating an online course or finding your business idea, is to first like brainstorm ideas. It could be ideas for your course as well. And then ask people like real conversations. You want to know what's the challenge or frustration? What's the wish, hope, or dream that they have? And then what's the obstacle? What's the thing getting in the way? So those are the three criteria. And when you just talk with enough people, you start to see patterns and you start to be like, oh, okay, I could really start to help people. And you understand the challenges. The other thing too, is like, you could think you're really passionate about something. You could know that there's a demand, and then you do a bit of research and then you think about like what people are saying and you're like, I don't really want to like solve this problem. It just doesn't excite me. So it's another helpful way, but yeah, you just got to talk to people and see, that best way to put it is just that intersection of what you love that excites you, you like to nerd out on, and then what a lot of people find valuable.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier is that your first course, you thought that it had to be like, absolutely perfect. And, it doesn't. You have to fail forward, right? So many people think about a business idea for 20 years and they never actually start that business. And what your business starts as today probably isn't going to be what your business looks like in 1 year or even 5 years. And that's okay. That's part of the process. That is required for you to get to the thing that's actually the thing. And you don't have to be perfect to start, right? You just have to be thinking of helping someone that, is 3 steps before you. Who were you 3 steps ago? And then help them get to the next step and then get to the next step. And you're going to continue evolving and your business is going to continue evolving. And that's okay. Like, part of that struggle again is going to get you to where you're supposed to go. So don't think that you have to be perfect from day one to be successful, because if you never get going, you're never going to grow. Like, a baby doesn't just walk from day one. A baby is going to start trying to walk and they're going to fall and they're going to stumble and they're going to hurt themselves and they're probably going to cry a couple times, but eventually they're going to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you said that earlier about how your first course, you thought it needed to be bigger than it was, and then you had to change it a couple times, but eventually you got to something that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things that came before that were required for you to get to the thing that worked versus thinking, well, if I could just skip all of that hardship and skip all of that struggle by thinking about it really hard, then I'm going to be successful in a better way. But actually, it doesn't work that way. Success requires the struggle, and you will never, ever, ever, ever get to your true potential or the thing if you don't actually walk through the process.
Mhm.
So if someone was wanting to start a course, they're listening to you today, where would they even find your content for you to help them do that?
I would just look at, I mean, you can go to my website and click on the blog tab in the notification, and I embed every YouTube video up there. And then, I mean, YouTube is a great platform just to dive into my content. And I share a ton of stuff on there, and it's actually gonna be ramping up a lot. We were talking before, I'm doing like 60 days of Kajabi, where Kajabi is a business tool that I use, and I'm part of the affiliate program. So I'm giving like a 30-day free trial. You get a course as soon as you sign up that helps you set your business up and launch in that first 30 days. And you get a coaching call with me to answer any questions you have about Kajabi or just marketing, sales, and just, getting on the right track and whatnot, and getting the most out of the platform. So I'm just building that right now. But after that, I'm going to be working at 3 videos per week, which is something I've never really done before. I was just doing kind of 1 video per week. And I'm just curious because, life is business really is just a series of experiments I've learned, and you just have to like play around with things. Obviously some things you start to play around with, they start working, and then you're like, okay, cool. This is kind of like my foundation. But like, I think it's helpful to just like do small experiments. Like 60 days of Kajabi for me is an experiment, and it kept coming up inside of me. So it was more of like this piece of insightful intuition, I guess, that was coming up. And I'm like, it keeps coming up. It sounds cool. It makes sense to like to grow my business, and a bunch of people can get a lot of value from it. So I think I'm going to do it. And I just kind of went into it. But yeah, my YouTube channel is a great resource.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for people to look at you. So James Allen on YouTube, and then they'll be able to find all the other stuff. This Kajabi challenge sounds really interesting. I'm going to have to check it out myself.
Yeah.
What a great value for people that are really trying to look to try to change things for themselves. They can kind of get to know you. They get that free coaching call. That's never a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome. Before we go, James, is there anything kind of that you wanted to share with people in the line of, when they have this desire inside of them, how can they propel themselves forward to that next step? Maybe they're worried about even, they're not ready to call you.
Mhm.
How can they move through that process so they can get to that point where they can take a chance on themselves?
Yeah, so there's a great book called U Squared by Price Pritchett, and it's like a old school book that's been around for a long time, and I kept hearing about it, and I have actually had a copy. It's really, oh no, actually I bought a copy. I thought I had a copy. I bought a copy, and I started reading it, and it's like 30 pages, but I think it sums up everything you need to know about goal setting and like manifestation in this book. And really the whole book is centered around one thing, and it's pursuit. So it's just about pursuing the goal that you have. And my sister, I think, got me the U Squared journal, and I'm running through it, and there's a bunch of quotes. And this one quote came up, and it says, "The work will teach you how to do it." And I think that people make things so complicated, and it's like, it doesn't need to be so complicated. Like, you're just getting stuck in like the analysis paralysis, and the way to overcome that is just to like do something. So
Yep.
if you like listening to this, if it is like, oh, I need to find my business idea, or just this idea that like I like and that people find valuable, then just do something. Just fail forward fast. And I think people are just too scared to fail, that they just would rather stay stuck in their own like confusion and kind of frustration of being in the same exact spot, that like they don't do it. Like 60 days of Kajabi for me, it's a bit of a beast, it's a lot. And I'm like halfway through at the time of this recording, but I'm just making the videos, and all I can do is just one at a time. So I have them all laid out. I brainstormed a bunch of ideas, and I'm like, cool, these will all work. I've done the research and the prep. So it's just like one at a time. And, like eventually I'm going to have all 60 videos, and they're going to be scheduled out, and I'm going to be on to the next thing. So I think that it really is just like that action
Yeah,
piece that you
it's
have
so
to do.
true. You're so right. I mean, even Ford Motor Company, I believe, had multiple iterations before that went bankrupt. But we always just focus on that. He started Ford, and he was amazingly successful and we forget all of the things that came before us. And you're so
Mhm.
right. So many people get stuck in analysis paralysis. We're scared to do anything. But I ask you, like, if you continue living your life the way you are in 5 years, are you really going to be happy with that? When you look
Mhm.
back on your life, if you write your own eulogy, is this really the life that you wanted? And most people say that they only regret the things that they didn't try, not the things that they tried. And I think there's
Mhm.
a real lesson in that. The pain is going to come, but there's a pain in not doing. There's a pain in not changing. There's a pain in not trying.
Mhm.
And sometimes it seems safer to stay in that, but the pain is going to be there regardless. So you can have the pain of regret or you can have the pain of trying.
Mhm.
Which one do you think is going to work out better for you in the long run? So I think you're exactly right, James.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a ton. I think everyone else did as well. So we really appreciate you and we wish you the best.
Yeah. Appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.